Hello, and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast for what is a very, very special episode. If you're not familiar with our show, we have been going back through every single Netflix original film and talking about it. What we like, what we didn't like, and what we took out of it. All the kind of stuff that you like to chat about with your mates when you're leaving a cinema. Last week, we chalked up our 100th movie on the list, and this week, we want to recap what we've enjoyed most about these 100 films. As always, I'm Jesse, and I'm joined with my co-host MJ. MJ, how are you today?
I am very, very good, Jesse, because these are my favorite episodes to do. I think I've already told you this. You know that I love a list, and this gives me a chance to list and rate not only the 100 films that we've seen in order, but also just talk about the best scenes and the best characters and all that kind of stuff. And it's just nice because I think so often when you watch a film, you watch it, you log it on Letterboxd, of course, and then you might forget about it. You might not talk about it. And the beauty of what we're doing here is that we do talk about it, and now we get to have a recap. So I think one thing we should try and do in this episode, which I probably should have told you off air, to be honest, Jesse, but try and do it as spoiler free as possible. So we don't
Ooh.
expect that as possible, but we don't expect that every single person would have seen 100 films. And we don't want everyone to have had to have seen every film. So we're going to have a bit of fun with this, talking about our highlights and lowlights and films that you might want to see. So we'll try not to spoil things as much as possible. And if we are going to spoil it, we might tell you to pause it for 5 or 10 seconds when we just want to talk about something specific.
Well, you've put the pressure on
But
me
how's
because
your
I've,
week
I've
been,
got.
Jesse?
My week's been good.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
We've had we've had a massive change in our family. We've got a child that's joined the household. So yes, the podcasting world is going to change a little bit every now and then. Our episodes may not be out at the same time every week, but we'll stick it out as best we can and get these done. Sometimes you might hear a baby crying in the background, and that's all good. But we're we're going to stick it out, and yeah, I'm excited for this as well because yeah, it's good to look back and go, hey, we've looked at 100 different films, 100 different movies, so many different things that we've taken from these things, and that spoiler, I'm going to struggle. So I'm gonna have to, as we go, make sure I don't spoil anything. But I am looking forward
Yeah,
to
and
this.
I think we can always just say, hey, there's a little spoiler here, so just if you don't, and you know what, you might not care anyway. But congratulations on your new arrival, Jesse. It is very exciting. I think you downplayed it a little bit. And unfortunately, if you had listened to our episode last week, we were celebrating the fact that we were able to do it in person again. Um, Being in Melbourne, we've had a we've had a pretty ordinary week with all the COVID restrictions being enforced back onto us. So we are back doing it remotely. As Jesse said, you might hear a baby crying in the background, but I think that's what makes it all the more exciting.
Yes, it's so very, very exciting. So if I slur a few of my words, which I just nearly slurred that one, but it's because of the lack of sleep and the ability of just having very long nights that turn into mornings and days, and it just sort of all blurs into
Poor
one.
of us.
So let's get on to this. This is your episode, MJ. This is what you love the most, like you've mentioned. So let us know what's going on first.
Yeah, well, I am happy to take the reins today a little bit more. So previously we've done these episodes, and I've got you to send me through your list, and we've done like a total, Flix Forum average of our rankings. I haven't done this time because I want us to be able to talk about our favorite films on air, and I want to know sort of as we go what films that you like the most. So for those listening, me and Jesse have both ranked our top 100 films from the first 100 in order of how much we enjoyed them. We're going to post both of our lists online. We'll probably have links to even letterbox lists that we can send out as well. But for the purpose of this episode, let's go through our top 20 each. We'll go through from 20 to 1. I want to go through me and you at the same time, and we can have just a quick brief chat about what we've got. So, Jesse, what did you have as your 20th best Netflix original film?
All right, just before I go with that, I'm just going to mention. So, if anyone has listened to our previous top 25 and top 50 and 75
Oh yeah.
episodes, we're not doing an episode on our last 25 because we're doing this
Mm.
big sort of special episode with our 100. So, my top 10, I've got three new entries from that last 25. I'm just putting that out there early. So there are some switches up what's going on. And I don't know whether I just wanted to bring it up early because I'm not sure whether that's the newness of watching them recently that sort of feeling that, oh, I remember what that was like, that sort of changes. But these lists are a little bit different for me personally than the other lists that we've put together. So it's worth listening and checking out what we've got here. I think I'm very excited. But yeah, back
Very
into what did
interesting.
you say? My number 20. My number 20 is
Mm.
I gave it a 3.5 on our show. It was Bright with Will Smith and uh,
Ah,
Joel Edgerton. No,
Joel Edgerton.
not
Yeah,
Joel
yeah,
Edgerton. Yeah, I can't remember.
yeah. Joel
Yeah,
Edgerton.
yeah. So that's my number 20 film. Yeah, so that's
I'm
sitting there
actually
nicely in the 20. I know critically it wasn't
I'm
received
scrolling
very
through
well,
my
but
list
I
looking for
really
it.
enjoyed that one. Yeah,
I
I
was
think
not a
you had it
huge
a
fan
lot
of
lower.
Bright. I think there we go. I found it at 61. I had it at number 20. I had
Whew.
Amateur, the basketball movie about the high school kid playing basically playing college basketball. Amateur.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. I had it. It's in my top 50, so I had that at 43.
Nice. What do you got at 19?
Number 19. Number 19. Let's go back to the list. I've got Our Souls at Night, which if you say very, very fast, I remember from our episode, it sounds like assholes something or other. I can't remember. Something along those lines. But Our Souls at Night with Jane Fonda and Robert Redford was number 19 for me.
Very nice film. I had it at 56, but I'm not saying that's a bit negative because it was a very nice film. Number 19, I had a film that you didn't really enjoy, but very much an MJ kind of film, and I've got Happy Anniversary at 19.
Yeah, I didn't mind that film. I thought it was okay. I'm struggling to find that on my list as well. Number 75, I had that, so
Ooh.
fairly low. But yeah, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the best either. All right,
Yeah.
number 18, and I think that you're going to have this one a bit higher than I did. I did really enjoy this film though, and that was Come Sunday with Jason Segel and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Number 18 for me.
Yes. I will come to that one later on.
Yeah, I thought you would. All
Number
right, you're 18.
18, yeah, I had Girlfriend's Day, which I think you're going to have very low, but I very much enjoyed Girlfriend's Day. Very weird, very different kind of film, but I enjoyed that they really lent into this whole bizarre kind of scenario. And Bob Odenkirk, very good in it.
Yeah, I had that down at 67, but yeah, it was a different sort of idea where yeah, that greeting card sort of world, which yeah, it was interesting, but yeah, it wasn't my favorite. Okay, we're into number 17. This is one of the recent ones that
17.
we've done on our podcast, and that was Extinction for me, the sci-fi film,
Ooh.
which I won't say much about because I don't want to give it away, but Extinction number 17 for me. All right, what about where did you have Extinction?
I had Extinction at 40, but yeah, and very honest film. Yeah, I didn't mind it. We had as I
Hmm.
said, had a chat about that recently. Number
Yeah.
17, a film that definitely split us as well. One of the funnier films, probably the funnier, the best straight comedy I reckon that we've had in these top 100. And for me, it's Game Over Man.
I laughed at parts of Game Over Man, but there were parts of that film that just didn't sit right with me. And yeah, I can completely see how some people would find that really good. And yeah, I enjoyed parts of it, but for me, that was at 83. Okay, we're into number 16. Number 16, and I think these are our top between 10 and 20. I think we've got quite big differentials with these because I think you're going to have this one a lot lower as well. And for me, this was the film with Brad Pitt. It was War Machine, which I really rated
Ooh.
highly. Yeah, and I'm guessing you've got that quite a lot lower.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with War Machine. Here we go. I've got it at number 80. It didn't do anything
No,
for me when it was too long. That was the
no.
other thing that stood out.
No, good.
Now let
All
me
right, yeah.
scroll
Well,
all the way back up my list. So yeah,
what-
16. I had another one we did somewhat recently. Really good thriller was Caliber.
Caliber, yeah, that was an enjoyable film. I had that at number 40, so it cracked my top 50, but definitely a good film as well. Was that Irish? No, Scottish. I think it was Scottish.
Scottish. Yeah, you're right. Scottish.
Scottish. Yeah, I think it was Scottish. Good. Okay, top 15 now. We're looking at the 15. What we think are the
Mm.
top 15 films. I've got one of the earlier films that we did. It's a sci-fi film. It's Ark. I've got at my 15th pick. What about you?
Ark was a good movie. Yeah, I'm going to get to Ark later on as well. But number
Ooh.
15 is. I've got a weird trend here of these are a lot of films that you didn't like, Jesse. At number 15, I've got Shimmer Lake, which almost the
Oh,
best twist that we
jeez.
had.
I'm gonna have to. I can't work out. 84. I had Shimmerlake. Shimmerlake was one of the worst films that we watched. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. But
Me and Heater both liked
15.
it.
Yeah. Who's
Yeah,
Hater? I
that's
forgot
good.
who that guy is. We'll see. He won't even listen to this, so he doesn't know what I'm saying. All right, 14. So number 14, I had a great film. I think it was Alan Page in Tallulah. I enjoyed
Wow.
that film from early on. That was quite a nice film. So Tallulah for me at number 14.
I did like Tallulah as well. Number 14, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Yeah, good. I think that's probably the closest we've had. I had that at 27. So yeah, that was a Elijah Wood film. Good film. Good
Melanie
film. Very
Linsky.
good film.
Yep.
Yes. Good. All right, 13. And I think you had this one a lot lower than I did. So again, number 13 for me was Burning Sands, which was that hazing film.
Ooh.
Yeah, which I know you weren't a massive fan of.
I didn't
Which,
like
yeah,
Burning
probably.
Sands, no.
Nah. That's really low,
I had
really
Burning
low.
Sands. I had it at 90.
Oh,
And I think you're probably going to have my number 13 in a similar spot. I've got Clinical at 13.
I didn't hate Clinical. From memory. Clinical I had at 58, so not quite as low, but yeah,
Okay,
Clinical was okay. There's some good things that I'll talk about in my scenes later for Clinical, I think, or performances.
lovely.
All right, number 12. I've got one of the Stephen King adaptions. We've done two so far on Flix Forum. Number 12, I've got 1922, which was that
Yeah,
sort of
nice.
farmer dude. Yeah, with his. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. I won't say anything. Don't want to spoil it. If you want to watch 1922, head out and do that. All right, MJ, you'll go.
Yeah, I'm not dissimilar with that. Yeah, 1922, I've got it at 27. Number 12, I've got Tallulah, though, which you've just
Oh,
mentioned
good.
before. So they were very close.
Oh, very, very close. Yeah, good. No, Tallulah was a good film. I'm thinking as we're starting to head towards the top 10 that we're going to have a few more similar ones, but I definitely know my number. What am I up to? 11. You are going to
Oh,
have so low. I think number 11. I've got Mercy.
oh yeah.
So
94.
90. Yeah. So your sixth worst film is almost cracked my top 10.
We were on a completely different page with that film. That film bothered me in so many ways, and I'm glad it didn't bother you.
Goodness. All
But
right. What did you have
I
at
actually
11?
think we're going to do this again, though. 11, I've got Irreplaceable You.
Oh wow, I hated that movie. I've got that at 85.
What are we doing? It's like we watch different films.
I thought recently we'd been a lot more in touch with each other, but obviously
Yeah.
not. This is our 10 to 20, or sorry, our 11 to 20. We've been very off skew. So let's hope that we can bring it home together for our top 10. So number 10, are you ready for it? I'm hoping that you've got this somewhere. If not, I'm going to cry.
Yep.
I've got. It's one of our recent films that we've done. It's the Indian film Sometimes about HIV. Where's that sit for
Yep.
you?
I enjoyed that movie. 29.
But
I did enjoy it.
29,
It was
okay.
a good, very good movie.
Not top 10 though. Okay, we're still off a bit. What's your number 10?
We're still off. Number 10, it is also a foreign language film, though, and I've got Seven Años at number 10.
Good. I've got that at 21, so not too far off. That was a very good film. Just missed my top 20, Seven Años. That was a good film. All right, number 9. Number 9, again, I've got another foreign language film. And this is another recent one, and it's another Indian film. It's Lust Stories, which was the anthology 4-part story about lust, I guess, is the best way of putting it. But
I love
that
that
was
you have that at number 9.
I really enjoyed that film. Not quite as much
Yeah.
as the Mumbai Stories, which was the one before it, but I really enjoyed that film. What about
I
you?
also enjoyed it. I had Lust Stories at 23. So it was, it's a really good film. I'd highly recommend it. Number 9, I had A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
Very nice. I had that at 25, so not too far off, but I know that you rated that one. And that was a very good film if you want to, it was a comedic look at a true story, I guess is the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
Number
Exactly.
8. Number 8. I've got my second Stephen King film in Gerald's Game.
Oh.
And it sits in my top 10. Where did you have that one?
Gerald's Game. I had it at 50. I didn't enjoy that one as much as you, but it was still all right.
I just thought that one location sort of film, I really appreciated that. Thought that was really good.
Yeah, and her performance was insane. Yeah.
It was. All right, you're number 8.
Number 8, I have the very first film we ever did, Beasts of No Nation.
Fantastic. Wow. So that's been pushed down a fair bit from recent times because we had that quite high a lot of the time when we've done a few of our lists. So Interesting.
Yeah,
I may still have that to come coming up.
I
So
thought you might.
good. All right, number 7. And this one I think you're not going to have in your top 10, and I can put money on this one. But I absolutely loved this film, and I know that we made some comparisons with Dear Simon, but for me, Alex Strangelove's my number 7 film. I really loved that film.
Wow, yeah, I knew you liked it. I didn't know you liked it that much, but yeah, it wasn't a bad film. It didn't do a lot for me, but I can see the appeal. I had it at 64. Alex
Oh,
Strangelove. So
okay.
cool. So that
Ooh.
was number 7 for you.
Yeah, number 7. I love that film. That was great. All right, what do you got at 7?
At 7, I have the Meyerowitz stories.
Good. I still have that to come, so I'm going to hold off on that one.
Ah, nice,
But good choice.
nice.
Good choice for top 10. Good. So we've got a couple that are in the top 10 together now, which is a good feeling.
Mm,
All right, number 6. I have the Angelina Jolie directed film First They Killed My Father. About the that was the war films. I've got
yes,
that at 6.
I had that at 36. But yeah, that was
Oh
a good film
wow.
as well.
Hmm. Good. All right. What have you got at 6?
Number 6, I have Arc, which you mentioned before. You said one of the early ones we did. I just loved it. I thought it was so gripping. I think it had a really short run time. Our conversation about it on the podcast was heaps of fun, just talking about the potential theories, and one that I've definitely recommended to a lot of people since we watched it.
Good. Good film. I think going back, I had that at 15. I think so. Close. We're getting
Yeah.
close. Number 5. This is probably the closest we've had, and that's where I've got the Maywit stories,
Right.
which you had a couple of picks ago.
Yeah.
So number 5. Number 5. Top 5 for me for Maywit stories. All right, you're for number
I
5.
like
Top
it.
5. Let's do it.
Number 5 for me is I've already mentioned this one is Come Sunday. Again, I think I liked it for all the reasons that you liked it, but some of the better performances we've seen, a really gripping story, and just I love a movie that just makes me think, and it kept me on the same wavelength that I'm living on. So it was a great movie.
Awesome. All right, number 4. And you haven't mentioned this one, so I'm thinking possibly you may still have this one to come up. And this is another Jason Segel film, The Discovery. Have you got The Discovery in your top 4?
I
Ooh.
do, I do have it in my top 4. It is not number 4 though.
Ooh,
Number
what's your 4
4 for
then?
me is Set It Up. Probably the most fun I had watching a film this
Oh,
year, or
oh,
this
bloody,
this
bloody
series.
hell! I knew that was gonna.
Set It Up was
When I did my
awesome.
list, when I did my list, I knew that was going to come up at some stage. I was not expecting that in top 5. Um, I had that at 56.
I
It
just
was
had
a.
such a
It,
blast watching that film.
uh, it was good for what it was, but yeah, okay, good. All right, top 3. Top 3 time.
Mm.
Okay, here we go. This is our bronze medal award for me. This is our Beast of No Nation, which you've already
Ah, yeah.
mentioned. So I think you're probably going to be able to work out quite easily what my next 2 are if anyone's listened to our podcast at all. But MJ, what's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is The Discovery. So they were
Oh,
very close, 3 and 4 for you and me.
very close.
What a great film, though, The Discovery.
That I think that means that our top 2 are probably going to be similar, but in the different order. I feel very closely. So for me, drum roll, my number 2 is Oksha, which was a fantastic film.
Uh,
Love that film. So much heart, so much, just so much. It's got so many feels. So MJ, your number 2.
My number 2 is The Fundamentals of Caring. And yeah, you know what? It's probably better for you to talk about. What was your number 1 film, Jesse?
Good, great lead in because that's my number 1 film, The Fundamentals of Caring with Paul Rudd, Selena Gomez. That movie just, I don't know, it's just one that you can watch and it'll pick you up, and it's just got so much heart. Um, just yeah, I can't complain about anything in that film. So highly recommend if you haven't. And it's one of those films that a lot of people probably haven't heard of. And when I speak to people and they say, "Oh, you do a podcast, what's a good one to watch?" and I go, check out The Fundamentals of Caring. Let me know what you think. So that's where my number 1 pick is. And MJ, I think now it's your turn to sort of lead into um, where you want to go with number 1.
Yeah, look, and to be honest, Fundamentals of Caring, as you said, it was a belter of a film. Paul Rudd was awesome, Craig Roberts was awesome, but it has been one of those films that I've recommended to a lot of people, and a lot of people have come back and said, "Wow, thanks for the recommendation." It's almost like this little hidden gem that, I mean, it's getting more and more recognition as we go, but it's just a really as you said, it's a solid film. It's so hard to find an issue with it, and it's really heartwarming. I'd love to watch it again, to be honest. But
Hmm.
you did allude to my number one is Okja. This movie blew me away. I don't remember feeling so much heart in a film in such a long time. I was completely on side with the main characters within the first couple of minutes. I was crying like a baby on probably 3 or 4 different occasions because I was so invested in the film, and it's got a special place in my heart, Okja, and I'm bloody glad that I watched it.
Yep, it's. I think when we did it on the podcast, I'd already watched it 3 times
Mm,
at least. I think, and even though I'd already seen it, like watching it for this just gave me a different sort of perspective on it, and it's an amazing film. Yeah, like high. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go watch it. You do yourself a favor. It's an amazing film.
mm. Yeah,
All
definitely, and
right.
obviously directed by Bong Joon Ho, who is
Well, yeah,
the incumbent best director at the moment.
correct. And who knows when the next best director will be announced, because that could be a long, long time. So he'll probably hold on to that the longest than any director has, which is well worth it, because that Parasite's a great film too. All
Oh
right,
yeah,
where are we
it's
heading
great.
next, MJ? What are we looking at now?
Well, as anyone who listens to our podcast knows, one of the main parts of our show is talking about the scenes that we enjoyed, and this is where we get a chance to talk about our top 5 scenes from from these 100 films. And I'll let you have a couple of honorable mentions that we can fly through. And this is where it's going to be hard with spoilers, but do what you can. But before you give me your top 5 scenes, what are some honorable mentions of some really good scenes that you've seen in these 100 films?
All right, good. Let's I'll try and fly through my honorable mentions as best as I can. And I'll have to try and do them as spoiler free as possible. So this is going to be tricky. But my honorable mentions for the top 5 scenes, I've got first one up. I'm like, oh, that's a massive spoiler. So I'm just gonna have to pause and reword this. Kathy, the counselor in in Candy Jar. Just
Yep, yep.
yeah. I'm not going to say any more, but that got me. I've also got from Bright. There's a action scene in the service station with a car, which was just one of the better action scenes that we'd seen, because there's not a lot of action films that we looked at in our first 100 films. I guess really liked that. El Camino Christmas, which is a Christmas film with Tim Allen. There's this shootout between a couple of cops. It was just really, really funny. If you just want a
Mm,
comedic sort of moment, that was one of the funnier ones for me. We mentioned earlier we both had the Meyerowitz stories in our top 20. So for me, there's just so many good scenes in this film. But for me, there's the brothers responding about this pervert with their sister. I won't say much more about it, but that the comedic responses between characters in that scene is just fantastic.
that was
Go
funny.
check that film out. Noah Baumbach, Marriage Story. If you like that film, check out the Meyerowitz stories. Um, First, They Killed My Father. Also mentioned this in my top 20, but there's the little girl. There's just a scene. It's just heartbreaking. The impact of war, and there's all these bombs, and she's freaking out. It's just a really, really good scene. Mercy, I just got to put that out there. I know that you hated Mercy, but I'm going to put a scene in there that it's just one of those scenes that just really got me. That there's not much to talk about. This film, looking back on it, I'm like, why did I like it so much? And I just feel like maybe I need to watch it again. But I really did enjoy. There's this motorbike scene that scared the living daylights out of me. So I'm putting that in there just for the factor that it got me. And finally, I just really liked Tallulah, and that film relates around Tallulah and this character Nico, and the scenes between those two characters, which was done through flashbacks in this film, were really, really good.
Mm.
So they're my honorable mentions. So I'm ready to head into my top 5 countdown if you're ready for that.
I'm ready
All
for it,
right,
mate.
let's do this. Good. Okay, so again, number 5. Try not to spoil it, but the twist in Extinction. Check out Extinction if you haven't seen Extinction. That
Mm,
twist is my number 5 top scene of our 100 films.
good
My
one.
number four is War Machine. I know MJ didn't necessarily like War Machine, but there's this scene where there's this president. They're in the Middle East, and he's trying to hook up his Blu-ray player, and this just was one of those laugh out loud scenes that I just needed to keep in, because that is my top 4 scene. Like, it was so good, such a good scene. um,
That was
Number
funny.
3 for me. It was very, very funny. Number 3 for me. So MJ didn't like this film either, but for Burning Sands, I can't really give too much away, but the final shot of this film, the main
Mm.
character Z, the camera work on his face in this final scene still stays with me today. So if you haven't seen Burning Sands, I recommend it, and I would say check it out just to see whether you can relate to these characters. Because I know, even though it was a story about African American kids, this still connected with me so much, being a white Anglo-Saxon, and I just thought the storytelling was amazing in that one. All
Mhm.
right, number two, and this is where I need Heater to have a bit of a laugh with, but the fundamentals of caring, just that first 15 minutes. It's not as funny without him being here anymore, but but the first 15 minutes of that movie were some of the best filmmaking I've seen in a long time. So we've mentioned
Mm.
that we both had that in our top two. Go check that scene out, from the fundamentals of
Yeah.
caring. First 15 minutes. Finally, my number one scene. My number one scene is the end of the Indian film called Sometimes. I'm not going to say
Oh
anything
yeah.
about what that final scene is now, because I need to obviously not spoil it. So, but I'm just going to say that this is the only film that made us go back together and watch the final scene to get clarity. So, to me, if that makes us do that and we're invested enough to go back and try and work out what happened in this scene, to me, that is an amazing scene to make the audience actually care about what happened and work out what happened. Number one scene for me. So, check out Sometimes if you haven't.
It's a good
All
point.
right.
We did do that after we finished recording, and then we even did a little emergency record afterwards. But it was even good, regardless of us having to rewatch it. It was. I remember sitting there almost in the mouth open by the end of it. So yeah, good call.
Exactly. All right. Your turn, MJ. What are your top five scenes?
Yeah, all right. I'll punch out a few honourable mentions. So, firstly, from the movie Handsome, with what's it called? A Netflix detective mystery, murder mystery, or
Detective
whatever it's
story,
called.
yeah.
Handsome, just there was this very funny back and forth between Detective Handsome and a few of the detectives after they'd inspected the body. I
Was her
won't
name
go into the
Fleur?
details, but
Yeah.
she
Oh,
was
no,
she
that
was
was a
part
chick.
of the
Yeah.
part of the
Oh,
back and
yeah.
forth. But that was very funny scene. Um, Another honorable mention for Father of the Year, where I know you didn't like this scene, but there's a scene at the lab with it's just probably 4 or 5 very funny moments about these, a lot of it
Moisturizing.
to do with nipples. Yeah, I just found it very funny. Um, all the scenes from Fundamentals of Caring where Trevor pretends that he's choking or dying or whatever. It's probably 4 or 5 throughout the movie, and they're done beautifully well. Good comedic timing, good surprise factor. They're really excellent. I've also got in Benji when, oh god, when they leave Benji outside in the pouring rain. That's one scene that I just can't get out of my head when they have to say, "Go, you got to go, you got to go," and he's waiting. Oh man, that dog gets me every time. I also have an honorable mention, Jesse, for your number one film in Sometimes. I thought it was a belter. Um, the final shot of Seven Años, when they're basically just showing them all sitting at the table without any spoilers, it just really, that whole 70 minutes, or it was a short film, but whatever it happened, that whole 70 minutes basically summed up in one shot. Um, the My Witch story is a different one to you, but again, it's a scene, it's a movie that you just enjoy as a whole without trying to really pick things out of it. But there's just this one scene where Adam Sandler character, um, he starts to realize about the how pissed off he is at his dad, and he doesn't know why, and he kind of wishes that he had done one really horrible thing to him, but instead it's just,
Mm,
he talks about this multitude of small things over and over and over again, and it's at those tiny moments in our life that really set us up for who we are. So that was a
mm,
really nice monologue. In the movie Clinical, the Nora, who is the basically the escaped mental patient, when she gets inside the house, absolutely chilling scene. I remember it very well, mainly for the way it made me feel rather than how it was. But awesome scene. And I'm just going to write the twist from Shimmer Lake. No more to be said. Felt like I was watching Saw. I was that impressed.
it was
Uh,
like Saw. It was literally Saw.
I think they took the music out of Saw. Um, I got two more honorable mentions, but in the babysitter, when B just gets real stabby for the first time, and I think it's the first time in a movie I was like, "What the hell?" I did not see that happening when she just basically killed a guy. And then the elevator scene in Set It Up. You don't really need to say anything more than that, but the elevator scene in Set It Up was very, very funny. So into my top five. from the movie Come Sunday, and this scene is probably really good because of the performances from Jason Segel and Chiwetel Ejiofor when they're at Chiwetel's house, and they're basically talking about everything they built together. But that chemistry and the love and them feeding off each other, everything about that scene was just so powerful. And as I said, I love a film that speaks to me and talks about issues that make so much sense, and you can understand why a person feels a certain way, and you can understand why another person feels another way.
That scene was very unlucky not to make my list. I completely agree. That was
Oh,
a
good.
fantastic scene. Yep.
I reckon this one probably was as well, Jesse, from Game Over Man. The scene in the room with the gay terrorists, particularly with Adam Devine basically being nude from the waist down for the entire scene, and it's just a very funny scene with them fighting and him having his pants down, and by the end of it, once they realize they got to go, he actually goes into the closet to put his pants back on, so he's not doing it in front of them. It's a very very funny scene. I was in hysterics watching it.
Apparently, that was his real penis too, which I find very hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah, he was all for it. Um, this is going to be really hard to do without spoiling it. So you know what?
Mm.
I'm going to talk about a scene from A Futile and Stupid Gesture. If you do want to see the movie and you don't want to have it spoiled, just press pause for like 15 seconds. I'm going to talk through it really quickly. All right, you pressed pause. So
Yep, paused. Good.
just the suicide twist, really. That whole funeral scene really made me stand up and pay attention to what it was. It was just this perfect balance between melancholy and funny, because you knew it was a really serious thing, and the character that they'd introduced didn't want to take things too seriously, and they just captured it perfectly and just completely caught me off guard. It was very, very well done.
Hmm.
All right, hopefully you're back now from pressing pause or pressing mute.
I'm still here.
Number two. Number two is from The Fundamentals of Caring again. And it's a scene after they meet Trevor's dad. It was just this perfect culmination of the emotional intensity of the film. And I know you spoke so highly about it in general as a movie. And that scene for me is the one that stands out. And I think about it the most, where Paul Rudd and Craig Roberts have a bit of a tiff. And that was the one for me that got the film over the line.
Good.
Number one is from the movie Okja. I didn't realize that my 1 and 2 scenes are from my 1 and 2 movies, but from Okja, when it's not really a spoiler, but when there's all these super pigs at the end, and there's a baby super pig, and the super pigs that they're so clever, they're so smart, and they help that little baby escape, even though they know that they can't escape. And that was when I was like bulk tears. It was it was the most emotional I'd been watching any of these 100 movies. And God, I think I actually want to rewatch it right now.
Good scene. Yeah, very nice scene. All right. Well, I think that leads us into our worst scenes almost, where I'll
That's
probably
it.
give off my honorable mentions and then head into my top 5 worst scenes for our first
Go for it,
100
mate.
Netflix original films. All right. So, my honorable mentions. First one is the film How It Ends. My second one is Abby and Sam from Irreplaceable You. I know that you love that film, but that couple in that film, they honorable mention for being horrible. Game Over Man. I know that we mentioned Game Over Man in, you liked a couple of scenes in that. The misogyny and the homophobic slurs, they deserve an honorable mention for horrible scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
Reality High. This is going back a fair way, but all of those scenes with those two main protagonists were dog shit. Next one, Shimmer Lake. There was
No.
some really poor dialogue in this film in Shimmer Lake, and especially there's this copper. It's a long time we watched this, but there was a copper in the car, and
Oh yeah.
he's in the car with a little kid, and the kid's like, when I'm dirty, Mum gives me a bath, and he's like, that's what I'm doing. I'm giving the whole town a bath. That is one of the worst lines I've heard in film history. XOXO. This was another one that
Oh
frustrated
yeah.
me. All of the drug scenes, the tripping scenes. There's this one scene where this guy has a trip and goes through a Portaloo toilet. Woeful.
Oh yeah.
And the final honorable mention I have is from Take the 10. Just that Chester and
Oh
Chris
yeah.
character, the opening scene in that set me off so poorly for that film that I can't go back on that film. So,
Ah
yeah,
yeah.
go
Yep.
back and
Yep.
watch the start of the opening scene from Take the 10. That was really poor. All right, top 5. So number 5 is from our film that we did last week, which was Bruj Mohan Amar Ra, and it's the end of that film where they've got this parallel story with a judge and this guy, and I don't want to spoil it, but that was a horrible scene. So I'm putting that as my number
Yep.
5. Number 4, going all the way back to the start, one of our worst films, which I think we've both got very, very low on our lists, but it's Brahman
Yep.
Naman, and it is a scene with a fridge, a ceiling fan, and a fish tank. I'm not going to go into any detail, but it involves a penis, and that is all I'm going to say. So that was horrible. My number 3 worst scene is any scene with Rob, the main character, from Naked trying to get to his wedding. That movie
Oh,
was,
that's the movie.
yeah, I know, so repetitive. So that is number 3. Is
That
those
was the
scenes
crux of the
Naked.
movie.
Correct. So that's where I've got it at 3. Number 2. So we're getting there. 2 to go. Number 2
Yeah.
is Paradox. Number 1. We're up to my number 1. Number 1 is
Worst scene.
a film called To Each Your Own. And again, this is going to be hard without spoiling
Yes.
it, but the final
Nah,
scene
do
of
it. You
this
got to do
film
it.
is just whoa. Whoa. Worst ending I've seen in a film in a long, long time. That is my worst scene. To Each Your Own. Check it out. I think it was French. It's French or Italian? French. I think it was French. It's a French film.
French.
Whatever. It's left such a good impact on me that, yeah, go watch that. That is the worst scene in 100 films. The last scene of that film. Okay, MJ, fill us in. What are your worst scenes?
All right, I'll give you a few honorable mentions as well. Hashtag reality high, the whole pretending to be friends thing with all the cool girls was so obviously set her up for embarrassment, and it took like half an hour of the film and you were just waiting for this big crux to happen that you knew it was going to happen, so that was pretty ordinary. Game Over Man, which I did like the movie, and like similar to what you said though, there was this fight scene with Joel and Irma where it was just way too much playing the gay card and it wasn't very funny and it was overdone. Pee Wee's Big Holiday. He sings this song about New York, which is just awful. I hated it. So that's why it gets an honorable mention.
That movie nearly hit my top 20. So
that movie nearly derailed the podcast because that was so early on. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, Jesse. In the open house, talk about bad movies. All these extended scenes of Dylan Minette's character walking around the house, and then all this music rising and crescendoing, and then nothing happens. It happened like 5 times.
Put his head on the floor
from the kissing booth. Booth, as if there's this movie. I think this is meant to be this scene where it's meant to be like this big romantic scene where she's jogging home from the kissing booth. Firstly, and then he sort of rolls in on the motorbike and picks her up, and then it starts raining, and then the rain stops, and then they have this like over dramatization, like if we wait out this rain, we should be fine, like it's going to be the end of the world, and it is just a disgraceful scene. And I love a good romantic scene, and that didn't work.
Yeah, that running almost made my horrible scenes just for the running that we saw in that, and then that takeoff of the Sound of Music, almost little rotunda. That was woeful. Yes. I agree.
So bad. So Brij Mohan, like you mentioned, different scene, but there's a scene where his girlfriend, or whatever you want to call her, she cuts up all of his clothes and she wants to have sex with someone else, and then she slaps him, and then he still is just like, oh, I love you, you're the best thing. And I just didn't know what was happening. I didn't know why they were at the hotel. The whole thing didn't make sense, and that scene was just awful.
Yep.
What's next? The most hated woman in America, when they jumped to 3 years later. Completely softened absolutely everything that was happening in that film at that time. Very, very ordinary. This is pretty self-explanatory, but there's a rape scene in The Killer, which is just hard to watch. I didn't enjoy it. I was surprised this movie didn't get a mention for you in any of your scenes, Jesse, but from Mascots, a scene with Corky St. Clair helping Lacey with her dance rehearsal, which was just a mishmash of shocking characters coming together to completely waste my time in front of TV.
That is my least favorite movie out of all the films we did, but I couldn't. I was like, there's more important things to talk about than that piece of shit. So yeah, that's all good. I'll leave that one out.
So that was number 100 for you, was it?
That was my number 100.
For those playing at home, mine was Brahman Naman.
All right.
My final honorable mention is in Pee-wee, where he's screeching that balloon for about a minute and 40 seconds. But I'm
That
going to
was
be
good.
honest. Our dedication to this podcast, we've seen a lot of bad movies and a lot of bad scenes. That is the only time I have fast forwarded through a scene, and I genuinely fast forwarded through him screeching that balloon. I didn't even know it was going to last as long as it did.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, my top
All
five
right, top five.
from Win It All. There's a scene where he has a heart attack, which I thought, whilst watching the film, it was meant to be a fake heart attack, but it was a real heart attack. It was just the worst acting you'll ever see. From the movie Mercy. Sorry, mate, but it bothered me. Actually, a little bit of a spoiler here. If you do want to see the movie Mercy, I'm going to spoil it because I have to spoil it. So just hit mute for a second. It bothered me so much how easily they administered that cure, when the whole time I was like, just give her the cure, just give her the cure, and there was all this toing and froing, and they just did it, and it was easy, and it really bothered me.
For
Number
someone who was
three.
I was going to say, for someone who was like against us not giving spoilers, you've spoiled quite a few things in your
At least,
scenes.
at least I've given a little alert. I know, it is hard.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
Number three, I've actually got your number one scene from To Each Her Own. That was just an atrocious ending of a film. It was embarrassing.
Yep.
Actually, at number two, I've got all
Mhm.
the scenes from Brahma Nama that you mentioned as well. The fish tank, the fridge, basically all the unrelatable masturbation scenes that were terrible.
Yep.
And number one, you also mentioned, but I'm breaking it down a little bit more. But the first 15 and 20 minutes of Paradox, and the last 15 and 20 minutes of Paradox. In the middle, there's like this little concert that's okay, but apart from that, it was whoa, it was bad.
It was like a 50-minute film, so you've only left about 20 minutes out of it.
Yeah, and I just had to mention
Yeah.
that 20 minutes wasn't as bad as the rest.
Good. Yeah, nah, that Paradox, that was Daryl Hannah. Yeah, I don't know what she was doing. All right.
Yeah, it was.
So we're on
Tough.
to characters. Characters. This is where we go
Yeah, and I
through
just
our top.
before you
Yep.
start though, I just want to mention like a character because it does get confusing because we have a section for characters and a section for acting performances, and a character for me trying to differentiate the two when I'm making these lists is it's all about someone that we could connect with and relate to and basically just enjoy on a visceral level, and that performance always helps, but sometimes these characters were just so well put together that the movie just doesn't work without these characters, and that's kind of the difference I think between a character and a performance is sometimes a character is just so well written, and you go, what a brilliant character that they've created out of nothing. So I just wanted to give that before we sort of start.
Oh, geez, that's a tough definition. I hope my mentions are going to stand up to that because
Well, I think
I've got.
you do it without even thinking about it. It's just
Yeah,
nice to be explicit about what we mean by character.
good. All right. Well, these are my honorable mentions for our top 5 characters. So the first one was from the film The Week of, which was about two families sort of getting together for a marriage, and the character from that was Seymour, who was played by Steve Buscemi, and was this wheelchair
Good one.
bound guy with this fake war sort of fake veteran of war sort of story. I just thought it was a great character that provided a lot of comedic relief for that
That
film.
wasn't Steve Buscemi though.
No, it wasn't, was it? Because that guy, yeah, sorry, not Steve
Steve Buscemi
Buscemi.
was
Steve
his
Buscemi
son.
was the guy wheeling him
Yeah,
around. Yeah, sorry, yeah,
yeah,
you knew who I meant. The Seymour dude,
yeah,
the guy who was actually a
yeah,
guy who had no legs.
yeah.
Sometimes is a film I've mentioned before, and I'm just going to put in this Krish character, just because of the impact of this final scene of this film that I'm not going to spoil, but the
Mhm,
the voiceover, just his presence in this film, I think is very very
mhm.
important. And I think he's a very important character to that film. And liking that film, I need a character from that film as well. Um, I'm gonna put in a character here, Chris O'Dowd, he plays this character called Mundy in Cloverfield Paradox, and just for a film that was the third film in a trilogy, he provided again a lot of comedic relief that I really enjoyed in that film. So that Mundy character he
Yep.
was just really good in this sort of situation where there's lots of different characters from different countries, and yeah, he was good. I mentioned this previously, but we watched this film called The Wheelman, and it was literally set in a car. So I'm putting in the car as this character because the camera very rarely left that car. Great character,
Yeah.
great film. Highly recommend that one as well. I haven't mentioned that one yet, so that's a good one to sort of one of
Cool.
those surprise sort of packages that's there. Um, Nick from Bright. We've mentioned Bright before.
Hmm.
Um, just being a cop to this character was everything to him, and just this sort of these struggles that he has between being an orc and being a human and whose side he's on. I just thought that character story and that circle that he had in this film was fantastic. So I'm putting him
Hmm.
in as an honorable mention. Um, I liked Mercy. You didn't like Mercy, so there's these brothers in this film, and I'm just putting an honorable mention to all those brothers in that film because um, they were just also different and helped propel that story. Finally, my last honorable mention is the commandant in Base of No Nation, who was played by Idris
Mm.
Elba. Just this hard ass sort of guy that, yeah, just such an important character to that film, and just that innocence in these
Yeah.
characters is sort of taken away by this one person who represented a lot more in that film.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
top five. My top five characters. So my number five is Sandy Wexler from the film
Oh,
Sandy Wexler.
nice.
That character is just such a good character, and I know Adam Sandler put together all these different people, as well as his manager, who or one of his man was his man. I think it was his manager at some stage.
It was
Um,
basically
he was
based on his
based
manager.
on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that character was fantastic. So here's my number five. Number four is, I mentioned this before, Burning Sands, and I mentioned previously too that this character Z, he was so relatable for me, and just is the character wanting to fit in and doing the right thing by his girlfriend, and eh, I just, and I don't want to give away the end again, but that Z character to me,
Mm.
I just really related to him, so that's why that film was a lot higher for me, because that film was just so relatable, and I still don't know why. So that was number four. Number three, go with Alex Strangelove. Alex from Alex Strangelove. Just,
Mm.
I just that film just left such a positive impact on me, and that was because of him and because of his character and just that film. So I'm putting him as number three. Number two, we're going with Oksha. I'm going with Misha, the character from Okja, the little girl, just her innocence, just that character in that film meant so much to that the
Love it.
ability of connecting with that film. Without that connection to her, that film means nothing really. And finally, my number one character is Trevor from The Fundamentals of Caring. I had that as my number one film. It's my number one character. He is just such a good character that you just every scene of him on the screen you feel him, and that film doesn't leave as big a mark on me without him. So that's my number one character is Trevor from The Fundamentals of Caring. All right, MJ,
That
your
is a
turn.
great
Hit us
list.
up with your. Yeah, no, it's good. Hopefully there's a few different ones for you, so what have you got?
There are a few, yeah. There's a few different ones. There's a few similarities, but I enjoy listening to that. And every time you say things, I'm like, oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I remember that person. So it's a nice little reminder as well. But my honorable mentions, and I'll try and fly through them. I've actually got Wheelman from the movie Wheelman. I know you mentioned the car, but
Mm.
the fact that the main guy who was in the car made that movie so engaging was a credit to the character. As you mentioned, I've got Nick Jacoby from Bright, so I won't go into him. Tallulah from the movie Tallulah. Just that was obviously a very character-driven movie, and Ellen Page does a great job. But Tallulah is just you just can't quite. You want to dislike her at times, and you can't quite, and that's such a good trait in a character. I've got Agu from Beast of No Nation. Again, the movie's told from his perspective, and it carries the story very well. I've also got Margot from Tallulah. Just a strong, likable mother figure in a movie, which was great. As you mentioned, I've got Sandy Wexler from Sandy Wexler, so I won't go into that one.
Mm.
From Irreplaceable You, I had Myron, who was played by Christopher Walken, and I think he was just this. I don't know how you say it, but he was like the guardian angel of the film that every time he was there, he was imparting wisdom that not only did the characters need to hear, but I kind of needed to hear as well as someone watching the film, and played a really strong movie for someone that wasn't even a major role of the film. Meant a lot. So great role, great character.
Fair call, because he was definitely the highlight of that film. So yeah, good call.
Yeah. From the movie Clinical, I've got Alex, who was the without trying to spoil it, he was one of the patients in Clinical.
Hmm.
Um, Little Evil, I have the collective group of stepdads. Those guys were just awesome. They were so funny, and that was a weird kind of film, but it kind of worked, and they were really funny in it.
Hmm.
Um, Father of the Year, I've got Marty, and I mentioned this when we did the film recently. Like that character of this guy who's just, he's such a dag, but you just respect him for being such a dag, and he's got his life together, but he's so uncool and he's so afraid of anything that's not like within his little world. It's such a good character, and you can't really go wrong with it. Fundamentals of Caring, I have Ben, probably for similar reasons to why you have Trevor, but I think Ben was almost his heartbeat of the film. He had his own backstory that was really difficult. It was really difficult for him to fight through all that, and that kind of resonated with me, probably the same way that maybe Trevor resonated with you, Jesse. But
Hmm.
Irreplaceable You, I've got Abby. I know you put her and her husband as like the worst scenes in the film, but Abby for me, this is a woman who's going through terminal cancer and trying to get her life in order, and I just that idea of going through something like that really hit me hard watching this film, and I think she made decisions that I probably would have made, and that means a bit to me. So
Hmm. Good.
that's why that character works for me. Benji from the movie Benji, and I know he's a dog, but tell me there was a scene in that movie Benji. If Benji wasn't in it, it was a bad scene. Like that dog carried that movie like you couldn't believe.
I agree. Yeah. Good
And
dog.
my final honorable mention is Krishnamurti, as you mentioned from Sometimes as well, for the same reasons that
Hmm.
you mentioned him. So my top five, number
Hmm.
5, Detective Fleur Scazzari from Handsome, just hilarious. I just laugh after laugh. She was crass as hell, but just so many great lines that I was eating out of the palm of her hand. So number 4 from the movie Caliber, I've got Vaughn, and again, this is a movie that made me think so much of what I would do if I was in his situation, and this character probably from a relatable perspective is probably the reason why I like him so much, because he made so many decisions that I probably would have made. So just that's a character that stuck with me and made the film as good as it was. I've got Danny from the Meyerowitz story. So that was Adam Sandler's character, and that's basically Danny's film, right? There's some big characters in the film, but we're sort of following his story, and he's kind of grappling with his place in his family and his own sort of role as a father, and that came off really well. Um, at number 2, I actually have Okja from the movie Okja, and this has probably got more to do with the fact that they've created this animal, this species that isn't human, and they've made it so intelligent, so endearing that you spend the whole movie rooting for something that's not even a living, breathing human that doesn't communicate the way you do, but they make it so intelligent that you can't get enough of it. So Okja was just something else for me. So
Hmm.
number 1 from the movie I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore was Tony, played by Elijah Wood. But that character just brings a whole new level to that movie. His humor, but also his principles. It's just such a wonderful role, and I just can't imagine the movie without it. So Tony from I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is my favorite character from these 100 films.
Good. Yeah. No, Elijah Wood was fantastic in that, so that was good.
Mm,
Very good. All right. Well, our last category that we're going to look at for this one is our top 5 acting performances, and I'll have
yep.
a look first with my honourable mentions. So to kick it off, and we've spoken up this film a little bit this evening, and that's Come Sunday. So my performance from Chiwetel Ejiofor for the character he plays, Bishop Carlton Pearson, just
Hmm.
he was amazing in that. The performance in that, like, you just believed everything he was saying. Can't put a foot wrong with that performance. So very good mention there for me. I've also got Tim Allen from El Camino Christmas. It was just nice seeing Tim Allen in a role that wasn't necessarily sort of just a stand up comedic sort of role. Had a bit of heart in that role.
Mm,
Really enjoyed that.
yeah.
You had this one in your characters, but I've got Benji as the performance. That dog, yeah,
Yeah.
that dog was
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
So putting him in here. Um, Brad Pitt for me in War Machine. I know I really liked that film, and I just liked that straight up sort of character that he played. So I thought that was great. I got to put here an honorable mention for Gerald's Game. Carla Gugino, who played the character
Oh yeah.
Jesse, just being able to hold that film and almost play two characters in one was just incredible. She did really, really well in that. Um, this one here is for Abraham Attar, who played Agu. You mentioned him before as well.
Mm.
Hadn't seen him in anything before in Beasts of No Nation, and his performance was really really good and held that film up, and obviously why it was so highly rated in our list as well. Final
Mhm.
honorable mention for me, and this is we're crossing over again a little bit between our characters, but for me, that performance for the character Alex in Clinical by Kevin Ram was just yeah, really really good. So thoroughly enjoyed that as well. All right, top five. Let's do it. So for me,
Do it.
five, I've got Martin Freeman as Andy in Cargo.
Ooh.
I just thought that he held that film up. I know we haven't mentioned that so far tonight, but yeah, I thought that his ability, Outback Australia, the dedication that he showed through his acting was fantastic for that whole sort of storyline. So
Nice one.
enjoyed that as well. For me, four, I've got Sarem Shrey Mock, who played the young girl in First They Killed My Father. And I know
Hmm.
that this performance held a lot based on Angelina Jolie's direction, but I thought for a kid actor, amazing job. For me, for number three, I've got Devon Terrell as Obama from Barry.
Mm.
Um, just that film was that was held up based on his performance and almost his impersonation, I
Mm.
guess. So that was really good.
Mm.
Top two, here we
So
go.
believable.
So number two for me, I've got Jack Black from The Poker King. He played this character Yarn, based on a real
Yes.
character. He was fantastic in that role. Like just such a good job. Just believable. Just not what you expect from Jack Black. So I really liked
Yeah.
that. And then finally, number one for me, I've got Jason Segel for Come Sunday. His character is
Oh
Henry.
yeah.
He just blew it out the park for me. Just a bonus mention. I mean, he was in Discovery as well. He was good in that, but just his character and that scene that you mentioned that I almost had as an honorable mention, like he was just fantastic in
Mm.
this. So that's why I've got him there for that number one. All right,
That was
your turn.
awesome.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I love going through this stuff, so I'm gonna try and fly through my honorable mentions because I've got a few of them, but I do want to mention them all. But this is so much fun to do. So, number 20. Sorry, I won't give you the number. But on my honorable mention, I've got Idris Elba as the commander in Beast of No Nation. I've got Alan Page as Tallulah in Tallulah. Alison Janney as Margot in Tallulah. I've got Bob Odenkirk as Ray Wentworth in Girlfriend's Day. Melanie Linsky as Ruth in I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. I've got the dog from Benji in Benji. Paul Rudd as Cactus Bill in Mute.
Yep.
Dustin Hoffman as Harold in the Meyerowitz stories. Carla Gugino as Jesse in Gerald's Game. Marco Giolini as Franco in Forgive Us Our Debts. Paul Rudd again, this time as Ben in Fundamentals of Caring. I've got Jason Segel as Henry, as you mentioned, as number one, and come Sunday, he was great. Kevin Rahm as Alex from Clinical. Adam Sandler as Danny from the Meyerowitz stories. Zoe Deutsch as Harper from Set It Up. Devon Terrell as Barry from Barry. Lakeith Stanfield as Billy Cole in War Machine. Elijah Wood as Tony, and I don't feel at home in world this more. Don't feel at home in this world anymore, as I said, as my number one character. But Elijah Wood was awesome in that role. And just missing out on my top five is Domhnall Gleeson as Henry Beard from A Futile and Stupid Gesture. So I do have a few there. I understand that, but I just couldn't find myself not to mention those guys. So I thought I'd breeze through them. Number five. This is credit to this actor, to be honest, because you have him at number one. I have him at number five for a completely different film. Jason Segel as Will in The Discovery. And I think what I loved about his performance here was it's not the Jason Segel I expected. I had trouble with him in the first few minutes, and he won me over really quickly after that, but really hard to the point where I loved this movie and I love this performance. So well done, Jason Segel. You've had a good 100 movies in Netflix, and you've only been in two of them. Um, Craig Roberts as Trevor is my number four from The Fundamentals of Caring. I know you mentioned him as your favorite character. The performance to pull off that character was really strong from a guy I've never heard of, and I probably don't think I've ever seen him since. Playing someone with a particular disease, obviously being in a wheelchair for the entire film, but that wit just was just so sharp, and it's just that's such a strong performance. Um, my top three really bloody hard to separate them, to be perfectly honest. At number three, I ended up with Chiwetel Ejiofor as Carlton Pearson in come Sunday. This was such a powerful performance. This movie was in my top 5, largely to do with how good Chiwetel was, and I highly recommend A, watching this film, B, just letting yourself get sucked in by this performance because he was awesome in it.
Yep.
Number 2, again, could have very easily been number 1, but number 2, I have Thomas Jane, who played Wilf in 1922. If you had told me that Thomas Jane was from the 1920s and he time traveled here to play that role, then I would have believed you. He was that damn good, and that seemed that damn authentic in this movie. It was a hell of a performance from him. But he didn't get number 1, because number 1 for me is Glenn Powell as Charlie in Set It Up. Now, I know you think this was just like a bit of a flash in the pan, good fun, romantic comedy, but Glenn Powell has charisma that you just can't even describe in this movie. And as I said, I had so much fun watching it, and half of it was to do with how much I just love seeing Glenn Powell being Glenn Powell, and he's funny, he's charming, he's smooth, he's just brilliant. And I said it before, I want to just put on Octa right now. I want to put up Set It Up as well, because and I mentioned Zoe Deutsch as my honorable mentions. They're both great in it, but Glenn Powell, he's one of my favorites anyway, so I'm a bit biased, but he gets number 1 for me.
Good. Well, you can definitely go and watch that one by yourself. Again, because I'm not going to watch Set It Up again. Just putting it out there. But no, that's good. It's always good to hear the different things that we enjoy each. That's good. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
well
that.
put.
So as always, that we've had a good time, and we've gone over an hour, so that's it's amazing that we can come up with such good memories from doing this for over a year and a bit.
We love to
Year and a
chat.
half. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, well, I guess that's almost it. But if you want to listen out next week, we've mentioned previously that we've got a comedy for our next one, which is Like Father, directed by Lauren Miller, starring Kristen Bell, Kelsey Grammer, and Seth Rogen. So check that out if you're keen to listen along with us next time. But thank you, MJ. This has been good.
It has been good, and we'll put some of these lists on our social channels so you can see them. Obviously, it's quite difficult to take stock of everything when you're listening to it, but we'll put our list. We might even put our we'll put our obviously our films. We might put our characters and other things as well. See how we go. But thank you very much, all everyone, for listening. A, for this episode, but B, for the support we've had over the last 100 episodes. We have a blast doing it, and we enjoy the feedback we get from everyone, and we're just going to keep doing it until it stops being fun. So thank you very much.
Good. Yep. And couldn't have enjoyed doing it more with anyone else. So thank you, MJ, for your work on this. And yeah, I look forward to chatting again with you next time.
Right back at you, mate. Thank you very much.